item is nowhere near as exciting as talking about full-time. It's a brief modification to Administrative Procedure 820, which is our application to use school facilities. So a resident brought this up to me. Came to talk about possibly renting out our gym facilities, but that our cost was just way too high when compared to other districts, which I hadn't thought of before. So I did a little bit of research, and you can see the brief graph of some local area districts that I put together, brief table. And lo and behold, the average gym rental price was just about $50, and we've been charging $100. So I looked at that and a couple of other rental areas, and I've modified our procedure to bring down these rates. This is an administrative procedure, so it's really kind of how we're implementing your policy, so it doesn't necessarily take approval, which is why it's here in the discussion and information. But just wanted to make sure that, and get a little bit of feedback that this wouldn't raise any red flags if we went ahead and made this modification. We really think that perhaps we might get more renters into our facilities if we make our prices a little bit more competitive with surrounding districts.
It's not even a money thing, it's more of a community thing. And it's PR.
Yeah,
we should be open to the community. It's their business, it's their schools.
Yeah, there's many districts that structure it simply to cover costs, and then so long as their costs are covered, the facilities are free. We're not in that boat right now, and we do have deficits that we're not trying to make it up on the backs of renters, but we want to at least make sure that we're covering our costs with revenue coming in. So the hypothesis is that we might be able to get a few more renters into the buildings, but we will see. If that doesn't happen, then
so do the prices cover any incremental costs?
When you say incremental,
well, if somebody rents the gymnasium for $50, do we have to clean it, or do they clean it?
No, we would clean it, and we do have custodial rates that would be charged on top of this if our people have to incur extra hours outside of the normal work hours. So if our custodians would be done by 8 o'clock, yet we somehow have renters until 10, we would charge an hourly rate for custodial to clean the facilities after that.
So we're not losing any money because we're allowing the use of the facility?
Correct. We cover it for both custodians and cafeteria workers if they want to use our kitchens.
And is it $50 for the rental, no unlimited time?
Per hour, so it's an hourly rate. So there you go. We will, publish these edits and report back at a later time if we see any adjustments to the renters.
Okay. Next item is our seniority list, and you have copies of our seniority list with our certified and support staff. And these need to be approved by us, and then they go to the union for their proposal. I need a motion to approve the seniorities.
You want to do separately, or
Just
do separately? I'd like to make a motion that we approve the certified staff seniority list.
Second.
Any discussion?
Mr. Skorzinski?
Aye.
Mr. Lucas?
Aye.
Mrs. Allen? Aye. Mr. Martin?
Aye.
Mr. Cronin?
Aye.
Mr. Satori?
Aye. Motion carried.
Motion to approve the support staff seniority list is what you're looking for, correct?
Motion to approve the support staff seniority list.
I'll second it.
Discussion.
Mr. Lucas?
Aye.
Mr. Skorzinski?
Aye.
Mrs. Allen? Aye. Mr. Martin?
Aye.
Mr. Cronin?
Aye.
Mr. Satori?
Aye. Motion carried. Next item is a semi-annual review of closed session minutes.
Recommended action is to approve the posting of closed session minutes from January 2015 to June 2015 on the school district website.
So moved.
Second.
Before we do this, there was some discussion of this in committee of the whole. And Dr. Munn mentioned that, if there's portions of these minutes still think need to be kept confidential. We have to actually make an affirmative determination, otherwise everything in the minutes becomes open.
Correct.
So if there's any disciplinary items,
That actually list individuals that yes, are there in those?
From my perusal, there are no personally identifiable information contained in these minutes. And I'm trying to quickly do another screen through right now, just to make sure I don't see any other student names, anything like that, so I believe you're safe here, so.
Do you see anything, Doug, that needs to be?
I don't, but
Yeah.
Which we prefer to hold this off until we can peruse it or we'll do it next month if we need to. Like to go through.
I've just skimmed through the entire list, and there's no personally identifiable information of any sort.
what about the meeting that we held in December?
This is January through June, so it's not covered under.
All right, so that'll be the next one.
Mr. Lucas?
Aye.
Mrs. Allen? Aye. Mr. Martin?
Aye.
Mr. Swarzynski?
Aye.
Mr. Cronin?
Aye.
Mr. Sidoris?
Aye.
Motion carried. Next is the policy student assignment and interdistrict transfer.
And one note on this, we did discuss this in committee of the whole. However, your policy on policy development, redundant there, allows you to immediately, approve a policy if you don't think it merits much discussion, much like a consent agenda item. This is the one where we would simply be editing the policy to allow any district family to apply for a boundary variance within our district, if, straight to the building principal if there was extenuating circumstances. If you want to discuss that more, then your action tonight would be to move this from first to second reading. If you have no issues with the policy as presented, and there doesn't really need to be discussion, you could take action to motion to approve right now, and we would implement.
I'd like to make a motion that we approve the first reading. Is there some language that we're deleting that I would like to?
Fair enough.
To preserve.
Is there a second to that?
Mr. Martin?
Can we just discuss it briefly though? You got a request from one parent. In addition, outside of employees of the district.
So far I haven't gotten any requests from employees, but it's a little early in the year to, for it to normally happen. Generally by February, March is when I would be expecting to see them as they plan for next year.
But do we currently have children of employees that are going to schools that they wouldn't normally be assigned?
I would look out at staff members. We've got
Yes.
nods. Yes, we do.
So if we open this up to just the general public, do you think you're gonna get inundated, or do you think it's just gonna be a trickle?
No, we would write an administrative procedure to go with it to say, the following sets of circumstances would be allowable, for the building principal to approve.
Oh,
Where it wouldn't just be, I like test scores in one area different, or I like this set of teachers different. There would need to be legitimate family reasons for, why attending the new school would create a hardship for that family.
Because I'd like to see that without being voided.
Procedure?
Sure.
Sure.
well, and we should probably, like in the other policies, have a statement at the end that the superintendent will
Develop procedures.
develop the procedure to implement this policy.
Right, okay.
The other thing that, just quickly, in item E, says the variance will be reviewed and approved annually. I think it should be reviewed
Or just reviewed annually?
and,
Yeah.
or approved or denied annually.
Yeah, make can make sure the option is there to say
Right.
no, right, yeah, okay,
But there are some others, and I'll just email them.
thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Okay, this is the first reading.
Mr. Martin?
Aye.
Mrs. Allen? Mr. Lucas?
Aye.
Mr. Swarzynski?
Aye.
Mr. Cronin?
Aye.
Mr. Satori?
Aye, motion carried. Next is the exemption request for school breakfast program.
As we discussed at committee of the whole, we did cross the 40% threshold of Minooka Elementary School for free and reduced lunch population. So 40% of those students, or more than 40%, are eligible for free or reduced price meals. That is the benchmark in the Illinois state law to require you to implement a breakfast program in the following year. However, there is a process by which you can request to be exempted from that. If you can show that it would be cost prohibitive or there are other factors detrimental to the district. So I've attached a letter drafted to the regional superintendent of schools, Chris Maachko, explaining how this would actually worsen our deficit, primarily because of the cost of adding insurance to some of the workers. We believe we crossed the 30-hour threshold there. But then there were some other logistics involved with the busing of our students and would they actually be there in time to partake of the breakfast program. So we are recommending that we request an exemption. He'll have a process that he has to go through, so it'll be a few months before we get final word. But we recommend approving this request.
Need a motion to approve that request going to the regional school.
So,
Second.
Any other discussion?
I have one, and just to put it in the regular meeting, I asked it earlier, how quickly does the regional school superintendent need to respond to this?
I would have to review the actual statutes. I think he's got about a month to do his stuff. I believe it was February 15th, and then I remember the month of March. But obviously, he has to act fairly quickly in the spring, because if it somehow gets denied and we are not granted the exemption, we have to have enough time to be able to implement and procure commodities and all of that.
There's also a process of appeal. If he
Yes.
does deny it, that takes some time also.
Yes, he has to hold a public hearing before making his determination, and then depending on whether he approves or denies the exemption request, either parents from the community could petition an appeal to the State Board of Education, or we could petition an appeal if he denies a request. So there's a couple other procedural timelines that have to be met, but this is step one.
Mr. Martin?
aye.
Mr. Lucas?
Aye.
Mrs. Allen? Mr. Swarzynski?
Aye.
Mr. Cronin?
Aye.
Mr. Satori?
Aye. Motion carried. Okay, the approval of the 10-year life safety report.
STR Architects, who graciously recognized so many of our students that were here earlier tonight. They completed the 10-year life safety report. They did all those. They walked through all the buildings over the summer. It wasn't until December that we actually finalized the report. And you have on board docs, you can see a list of all the, it's called the violations or work item listings, where our facilities are not quite up to the most current codes in a variety of areas. They identified about $2.25 million worth of projects in either the urgent, which are projects that have to be completed within 1 year, or required, which you get up to 5 years to complete. I believe there's about 570,000 are the urgent and would need to be completed within a year. These have been already submitted down to, or at least they're already into the state website. It's just pending board approval before we click the final button. And then we will work with our Buildings and Grounds and Facilities Committee to set up a schedule of work and to start to plan out when we did these projects and start getting the work done. There was an additional $10 million of projects that they identified in the recommended category that really kind of gives us a roadmap for the other projects that we could do over a 10-year period. However, we have funds right now to do the urgent and required, at least we project we will over the next 3 years. To do all the recommended projects, that will take a little bit more finagling of our budget resources.
So
comment on it, it's very extensive.
Very.
Goodness.
That's why it takes architects and engineers to walk through and do it, so. And, you know, they originally came out, and then presented us with a draft list. And then our maintenance and buildings and grounds staff actually walked around the buildings with them. You know, there were some things that, you know, they have to note on code, but, you know, you wipe something off a wall and it disappears from the life safety report. So we got to do a little bit of editing with them, but then this was the agreed upon list that, you know, needed to be bid out of the projects.
Second.
Any other discussion?
Mr. Swerdaski?
Aye.
Mr. Martin?
Aye.
Mrs. Allen? Aye. Mr. Lucas?
Aye.
Mr. Cronin?
Aye.
Mr. Sitori?
Aye. Administrative report.
Dr. Fowler?
You know, I gave Lori, I know I gave her about 10 pages of
I've
stuff,
seen
so
that.
where these other 99 came from, I don't know.
Yeah, I just threw them in there just for you, you know.
Just a couple of things, unless you have questions about, though, the in-service went very well, a lot of good hands-on type thing, but a couple of things just so you were, because I did reference them in my report. The science test that is all 5th and 8th grade students have to take this year. They don't have a final date yet, but they're thinking somewhere between the middle of April and the end of the school year. I don't know how that's gonna work out, but it's only for 5th and 8th grade. So we'll see what happens there, I'm not quite sure. This Friday, if you're interested, kindergarten teachers are having another half-day kids training with the people on how to input some of the information into the DRDP site. And they have lots of other questions about the data and how we're using the site that they have where we can put in the evidence is really good, but it takes a lot of clicks, if you will, or a lot of things to go through to get to it. Very good, it's not as easily to pull up the information, so we're gonna try and work with them and see if they can, because the state doesn't require that portion of it, but it's really good to get the information there so that you can pull it out. And in addition to that, on the 11th and 12th of April, we're also going to do another 2-day training for kids, particularly for, within our district anyway, those students that, or those staff members that, like special ed teachers, we'll have the primary kindergarten fine arts teachers will be here as well. Plus, we'll probably open it up to some of the other school districts that surround as well, just to make sure we have a good foundation on the kids. But again, looking at the data, I was at Jones School today, good detail. And in fact, the teachers were the ones that said, you know, I didn't know that little Steph cried every day until I put all the information into there, or, you know, on such a regular basis, which was a good key for them. There was a parent or two that said, well, my kid knows all this stuff, but we have the data already to show that, in fact, they're getting there, but they're not there yet. And their DRA scores for mid-year were just, again, most of the classes, there's very few who are non-readers at this point, and we wouldn't have been even close to that in the past. So, again, just to reiterate, we appreciate your giving us the whole day, and that's all I have. Unless you have something to say. Pardon me? Yeah, I've been crying every day.
Just looking forward to that.
The end is in sight, so I'm crying, yes.
My report tonight, I want to make sure you take a look at the enrollment report that was included. You'll note that we're up over 100 kids since the start of the school year. And I think we've gotten over 20 or so since we came back from break. So it has not necessarily slowed down at all. So the enrollment projections that we talked about at the Finance Committee back in December, I think I'm going to bring those forward to the board as we start planning, for next year. Getting into just a little bit of update at the state level. They did finalize the proration levels for all the mandated categoricals, and we actually saw a slight uptick in a couple of the categories. They're still behind in sending those payments, but when they do send them, they will be slightly higher than we were expecting in a couple of the areas. However, if you followed Springfield politics the past couple of weeks, school funding reform is back in the forefront. President Cullerton of the Senate, that was his mantra last week. they have, they've made it another, a cause, shall I say, as they go into the primary season and the spring legislative session. And then, obviously, Governor Rauner, today at the State of the State, pension reform has come back up, so we will see what happens with that. They seem to be going along with President Cullerton's consideration model. And most pundits believe that no matter what they decide to do, it'll end up in a court battle anyway, so it'll probably be a long time. But then again, they're also talking about the cost shift coming back to schools. So we will monitor and see if they ever get anything concrete that may actually turn into a tangible difference for our school district there. Then the last thing I wanted to update on was just speaking of Dr. Polnick, looking forward to that retirement. We are another step forward in our search to replace Dr. Polnick upon his retirement. We did hold our first round interviews. We've narrowed the field down for a second round, which will take place next week. And we will have a team of teachers that meet with the candidates for the first hour of the second round to give me some feedback on what they think about each of the candidates. And then they will progress to a team of administrators and board members. And I think just before the meeting, we decided Ms. Zell and Mr. Martin will represent the board at that second round. So we're still in line to potentially be able to hopefully select a candidate and get a contract prepared for the February board meeting. So we will see. And that's all I have for this evening.
Board topics? I only have one, and that's our new board docs for the public to get to. Could you explain how the public actually gets to that?
Sure. Well, there is there's a link right from our website. I'm going to try to see if I can get there right from this Chromebook. I'm in full screen mode, aren't I? What's that? F11 might bring me up. There it is. Well, here. Oh, number lock was on. I don't know what I'm typing there.
You don't need to call Aaron every time.
Yeah. We did make a link right from the homepage of our website. Well, at least the menus from our website. Yes. Number lock is just not being kind right now. Well, in the menu bar, if you find Board of Education, there you go.
And it is iPhone friendly?
Should
Yes,
be.
it is.
Oh, it is. You're on it right now. Good. Yeah. Yeah. At board meeting packet under Board of Ed. And that should take you right to the public site where you can see the active meetings for the board. We will always try to keep the current and like the most recent 2 meetings up as featured. And then after that, they will just kind of go down and be archived in the year. But all of the documents that we are posting on here, they stay up there forever. So they will not come down. So people should be able to have a good, rich, history of what's happening at the board. We talked at the training about a long-range project for Lori is going to be to slowly scan in minutes of previous meetings and somehow get those loaded in. But that's going to be an ongoing and forever type project, not one with a distinct timeline, I think. Answer your question?
Will we have to, for state laws, have a hard copy someplace too?
Oh, we will always keep at least one paper copy of the minutes in our office.
It's all steps.
Yeah, it's all set.
That's 500 pages.
Okay, and we need to go back into
Yes, we would need to go back into the closed session to discuss collective bargaining and the compensation of specific employees. And I do expect that there will be action followed.
and motion to go into executive session.
I'll make the motion to go to executive session.
Second.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye.